What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Flip Lifestyle Podcast. It is great to be back with you again this week. Man, I am pumped up because I am bringing to you a powerful energy onto the podcast today. My good friend, Betsy Guerra. Betsy, how are you doing?
Fantastic. How are you doing, Shane?
We were in the room at the same time, in the same place at one of our live events. And I tell you, I don't know if the room could contain the energy. Jocelyn said that you might be one of the only people she's ever seen that has as much energy as me all the time. So
maybe,
I have no idea where this podcast is going to go today, because we could be off on tangents, guys, for the next 2 hours. But I actually love you, Betsy. Like it was so awesome watching you come in, meeting you, hearing about your story, and then seeing the energy that you just attacked your online business with. You started building things, you started launching things, you started doing things, and that's what we love for people to do inside of our community, is to take action, because nothing happens unless you take action. But I want to back up a little bit before we get into your online business and just talk a little bit about your story, because your story is absolutely incredible. You're a counselor right now, but you went into a specific kind of counseling because you had a season of your life that was very hard to go through. So could you tell everybody just a little bit about your story before we get started into the online business stuff today?
I have been in private practice for 20 years. And in 2013, I was mostly devoted to couples therapy. And I suddenly lost my daughter in a drowning accident. In the pool, in my house, with me inside, I still don't understand how and what happened. And you can imagine that I experienced excruciating pain. I could feel it in my bones, and I was in darkness, and I was in hopeless, and I wanted to die. I wanted to die with her. I had 2 other children at the time. I am very happily married, and I'm a woman of faith. And I think those things helped me. And my background in psychology, I have a doctorate in clinical psychology, also helped. But if there's something I learned through that, is that nothing prepares you for tragedy and adversity and loss. And even people think like, oh my gosh, that's horrible. The loss of a child, the loss of anything or anyone, the loss of your life as you knew it. Because when we experience pain and grief, it's not just because you lost a person to death. It's divorce. It's the pandemic. It's a job loss. It's losing your life as you knew it. So we've all experienced this. And the day after my daughter dying, or actually the night of my daughter's passing, I found myself on the bathroom floor. I don't even know how I got there. And I was rocking back and forth like a crazy, deranged woman. And I remember feeling like, this is why people go crazy. I just could not stand reality. I wanted to rip my head off and die and stop being, because it was unbearable. And my husband came to get me from the floor. And he tells me years later that his thought was like, she's a psychologist. Like if this is happening to her, then, what's going to be of me, and how are we going to get through this? And I learned that psychology alone does not suffice. We need more than just clinical knowledge and neuroscience and reading books and listening to podcasts. All that is powerful and wonderful, but we need faith. Yeah. And faith, if I had to summarize my life, faith is what has gotten me through. Faith is what creates this energy that I know is contagious. Faith is what has brought joy back to my life, and I'm the happiest woman on earth. And faith is what keeps me going when I'm creating programs to serve and they're not working the way I wanted them or I expected them to work.
Of course.
So faith is a big deal in my life.
Too. That's life too. I've never heard you articulate it that way. And I know your story, and I've heard you, and we've talked about it, but that's a fascinating realization. And maybe you being equipped with so much, psychology and education and things like let you come to that conclusion, is like that grief, that loss that we all feel in different times of our life. And of course, what you went through is the most horrible thing. I cannot even imagine or even relate to that in my brain. I don't even want to think about that happening, right? But the bridge that you made to, man, there are other people with grief, there are other people with loss, and they are not equipped to deal with it. And if the most equipped of us, like you, go through this and it still overwhelms us, like what is happening to the regular people who are going through this, and they have no structure, they've got no background, they've got no scaffolding under them to help them and equip them with this. And now you can take this knowledge and wisdom that you've experienced and faith that you've laid on top of the psychology, and you can go out into the marketplace and you can say, no, this is a program that you can go through. Here's where you can get someone to guide you through it, so people don't get sucked into that vortex or that valley for years and years and years and years, and they can have someone to walk with them and overcome the grief and overcome the loss faster and get through it, with a guide, with a mentor, with somebody who can help them. That's an amazing mission. I was thinking back when you were saying that, I thought about a couple of times that we've experienced loss lately. Jocelyn sold her business back in 2017, and it was her baby. Like, it was like she built it from scratch, everything. And a few months later, something happened in Jocelyn, and we realized that she was grieving that business as a loss. Like, it was years of energy and effort, and it was just gone. And then the people who bought the business were really nice when we were buying it, and and I'm not trying to equivalence this to anything of your loss or anything, but I'm just saying, like, it was shocking because the people were evil. They were just not good when we did, but we didn't realize it till it was too late, right? So then it was like she sold. She said it was like she sold her baby to someone who she knew was going to abuse it, right? And she experienced like a year of deep depression and grief, and we had no clue what was happening, but it was a loss that we didn't see coming. And I was like, man, and when you were saying that, I was like, oh my gosh, like, we have experienced that, even though we've not experienced the thing that you have. And something, it seems so trivial, but like, we don't realize how these trivial things hurt us. My daughter, Anna Jo, she's 11, right? So she's been a cheerleader for 6 years. Like, she's an elite all-star cheerleader. We go to these big level competitions, and like, it's next level youth sports, right? It's been our life for 6 years. Like, we travel 10 times a year. Every month we're at a competition. We go to these cool things, and she's at practice every day. And when she's not at practice, she's in the garage flipping on her mat. And like, that's half her life has been her identity wrapped up in this cheer thing. And then when we got home from a major competition recently, the gym owner decided to close her gym because her son's in high school now, and she just wasn't having enough time with him. And man, when it was like an entire family disappeared, because all the girls come from different counties to this one gym. So they're driving 45 minutes. This is the only connection these girls have, and all the families have to each other is through this gym, and the gym just disappeared in one day. And that couple days, Betsy, was crazy around here. Like, Anna Jo experienced for the first time in her life, like, true loss and grief. And our family, it felt like true loss and grief. And you may speak to this. Like, I don't think that we recognize in our society that grief. We don't recognize loss properly. Like, and we don't contextualize it as, you know what? Yeah, that does hurt when your gym closes. It's not a big deal. It does. You do grieve when you've put 10 years of your life into something and then it's gone, or when you lose some family member that's really important. Is that what you find? Like, is that why you expanded it out to grief and loss? Because people just don't process it correctly?
I'm so glad you said that, because it is true that society doesn't acknowledge that as grief, and they don't even give you permission or grace to feel what you feel. Like, get over it. It's just a gym. But it isn't. It isn't, yeah. Because the meaning it had for you is different. There was that energy and effort and love invested into it. And in my book, I have a book called Hurt, the number 2, Hope, Heal the Pain of Grief, Loss, and Adversity. And I specify that clearly. Loss is all of that. And pain is pain. Pain is the same for everybody. The pain I feel is the same pain that your daughter feels. The reasoning of it is different. So the interpretation of that pain is different. And it may feel like it's greater or lesser, but in the end, pain is pain. It's just an emotion. So we get to empathize and recognize the pain of others and the pain in ourselves and not compare it with other people as better or worse or something that I need to get over of. And that's very healing, because when you're able to recognize your pain and embrace it as important and valid, you're able to heal. Pain is the path to healing. It's the road. It's never the destination. When it becomes the destination, that's when it becomes suffering. And I distinguish always between pain and suffering, because pain is hope. Pain is hope, because pain is the road, the path to healing and joy. Suffering is when pain has become the destination, or when we don't sit with the pain, when we don't embrace it, and instead we escape it and avoid it.
Yeah.
Because then it becomes
don't process
deeper.
it. You just let it fester inside.
The only way around pain is through. The only reason I can be so full of joy, like genuine joy, is because I have felt the pain. And I still do. And everything that happens in the day to day, I allow myself to have my pity party and, feel the feels. And then I recover and I find strength in that feeling.
What a great word. See, it's not get over it. It's like you feel it and you recover. And recovery doesn't always mean permanence. Like, it's not like you're not going to feel pain or you're always going to feel joy. Like, you get to recover from that. And, it's not just going to vanish or like disappear, but you get to like pursue that. You get to recover from that. And when the pain comes back, you have tools and you're equipped to deal with it, not deal with it. Right? Does that make sense? Like, I get to recover from this. And I love that word. I'm going to actually write that down, because the next time I feel pain, I'm going to be like, Dr. Betsy told me, feel it and recover.
Shane, when I have the online program for the online membership for people who have experienced the loss of a loved one. And I started this, it turns out that I had completed it right when the pandemic hit. So it was very, very necessary and important in the time that it was launched. And my clients in the program didn't understand the value. Like, what are you going to do for me? You're not going to bring my mom back. You're not going to bring my husband back, my dad, my daughter, my sibling, right? Like, we think, and it's something that I felt too. I thought the only thing you could do to help me was bring my daughter back. Nothing else is going to make me feel better. But we don't know what we don't know, right? And what people didn't understand until they experienced it in our program is that when there's a way of feeling pain to heal, and there's a way of getting stuck on pain and dwelling on it to suffer. And our human tendency, what comes naturally is, let's go to suffering. There's when you feel something as powerful as grief, it's so real that you don't think it's ever going to leave. You don't think it's ever possible to overcome it or recover from it. So then you lose hope. But when you understand that other people have gone through this and they can complete your sentences because they know what you're feeling and they are full of joy and healing, then that in and of itself creates a hope that allows you to, okay, let me try that one more thing. It's what you do with your program. With your membership, you give us hope. Oh, this is not working. I tried this. Oh, try this other thing. And we keep trying because of hope. We keep trying because we trust that you did it, so then I can do it too.
Yeah. And that's why we're so focused too. And you've experienced this. We're so focused on togetherness. Like, we have multiple calls a week. We have multiple calls a month. We have forums. We have everything, because we realized really early on that it wasn't just the training or the core. Like, experience and wisdom is extremely valuable. Like, this is a biblical principle. Like, you have to lean on other people. You have to get wise counselors. You got to count the cost. You got to do all these things. But at the end of the day, it's that, oh, but they did it. Okay, so something I'm doing is not working. Or they did it. It's not just looking at me and Jocelyn. It's looking at all the other people around us, all the other people in community, all the other people in fellowship. And I think that's kind of like what you're doing here too. Is like, now, like, you've got this amazing wealth of experience and knowledge, and we call them chops. You got chops. Like, you got out there, you've done it. You've done the thing to get the street cred, right? You have the degrees, you have the things, but now the internet gives us this amazing ability to scale that. Like, we can cause ripples. We can we can equip others, either equip others to do what we do, or we can equip others to get through what we've gone through, right? Whatever the niche is, it doesn't matter if you're teaching people how to play guitar or overcome grief. You're trying to help more people get through what you've already gotten through. So let me take everybody through this. One thing that you're doing to scale your influence and scale your impact and scale these gifts that God's given you, these experiences that you've lived through, is you are now certifying people to do what you do, right? But it's at a higher level. It's not like, you said something interesting. We were talking right before we got on the podcast. Like, you are good at helping people get through the pain, like take the obstacle is the way approach and take them from dysfunction to function. But it's not just stopping at functional. Like, you want to take them to the highest level, take them to the joy, right? Like, we don't want to just get you to, surviving. We want to get people to thriving, right? So now you're launching a certification program where you can take people and teach them how to do this, right? Like, what is your certification program called? What is that? What is that called?
So my business is Better with Betsy. So it's BWB.
that is the best domain name ever, by the way.
Better with Betsy.
Everyone I have told that to lately. Because I've talked about you a lot lately because you just launched your program and we got some other things that we're working on. But I was talking to a buddy of mine. He's a CEO of this big company the other day, and he's a visionary. He's an idea guy. And I was like, yeah, man. He goes, what's her website? I was telling him about your launch, and he goes, what's her website called? I said, Better with Betsy. He goes, that's amazing. That's so good. And BWB, you got a good abbreviation.
Why it's Better with Betsy, because my business partner is the Holy Spirit. So everything I do with his guidance and with his revelation. So how could it not be better with Betsy if Betsy's connected to God? It's a big deal.
And let's be honest, you're pretty fun and hilarious. So I mean, it's more fun with Betsy and better with Betsy too. So let's be real.
So Bwb Coaching Academy was born because I had a supervisor when I first got to Miami and I started my working after graduating from my PhD. I had supervisors that I admired tremendously. They were like gurus in the field. They were incredible. And my supervisor that I hadn't talked to in forever called me like in desperation. And he was like, Betsy, I need your help. I have this client who lost her husband and that's all she had. And I don't know what to do. I don't know how to go about this. And I remember at that point being like, man, like the person I looked up to and whose footsteps I followed is asking me for guidance.
That's because a trip, man.
It was beautiful.
That is a trip.
Because there is something to be said about not just studying something, but living it. Living it. Like I've heard there's a difference between knowledge, understanding, and wisdom. Knowledge is information. We have knowledge. Understanding is like you feel it, right? Like you've gone through it, like you feel it. Wisdom is when you apply the understanding to your life, when you embody what you understand, right? So when it comes to overcoming pain, when it comes to having fulfilling relationships, when it comes to thriving, I have a knowledge about it because I've read a lot about it and I listen to podcasts and I study. I have an understanding because I've lived it and I know how hard it is, right? There's always a story behind the glory. And I have wisdom, I believe wholeheartedly, because I embody that. So every time I'm failing, and I am currently failing in many aspects of my career, every time I'm failing, I apply what I wholeheartedly believe and I have learned and have understood throughout the years.
You've heard my loved, lived, or my loved, learned, lived that we teach is, where you find ideas from. It's things you love or you're passionate about. It's things you've learned, that knowledge that you have, or it's lived. That's what it's just a word we alliterate into wisdom, right? I wonder, listening to you say this too, like for your business and for everybody's, knowledge is like you know it. Understanding is you've used it yourself. But wisdom is when you are equipped at a level to go help other people. When that person runs up to you and says, hey, Betsy, hey, Shane, I need your help. Like, that's the push to the next level where it's like, okay, now I can go out. Now I just have to figure out how to package this and present it to the world so that they can use my knowledge to gain their understanding and be fully equipped with the wisdom that I've been given.
My life mission is to be the face of God for anybody I come in contact with. And I guess part of that work implies that I get to create other faces of God, right? Like everybody I come in contact with, my mission is to take them to a level where they could inspire others to live their best life. And I have a team at my private practice that I have been doing that with. So I also I'm a clinical supervisor, like a certified clinical supervisor. So I've done this work of training others, but I've done it within my team and within my private practice. And when my supervisor called me, and many of my clients who have been with me for years and have decided to change careers and do what I do because they were so inspired by their own process, they, like, all those people have asked, like, how do I become part of your team? And it wasn't reasonable, right? Like I only have 5 offices in my office. Right. So that's when the idea of like, why don't I create this in a way that's accessible to people around the world and doesn't just have the life coaching part, but also the psychology, right? Because life coaches are not equipped to meet you where they're at. You have to come at the place that they can meet you at. And it doesn't have, other programs don't have the spirituality approach. And I think where psychology ends, faith begins. There's like that wall that we need somebody to lift us past it. So in my program, I teach coaches to tap into their divine wisdom, to connect with that higher power within so that they can guide their clients, not just with the clinical competence, but also with their spiritual connection, and so that they can teach their clients how to do the same. And I believe wholeheartedly that when I have all these graduates, I am going to be the face of God, and I'm going to change the world into a world of hope, not suffering, because I believe we were created for peace, for hope, for greatness, for joy.
This is we have another amazing student. Her name is Rebecca, and she did something very similar to this. It was like in Chicago. She came to one of my live events in Chicago back in I think it was 2015, but it might have been 2016. And it was kind of like what you were doing. She had the clinical competence. She was she was a nurse. She taught a professor at maternity nurses and things like this. And then she had a horrific experience with the birth of one of her children. And she was disempowered. She was treated poorly, and she just didn't like it. So she said, hey, I can go out and I can help parents have great birth experiences, or I can equip nurses, midwives, doulas, the people who work with parents every single day. I can equip them to go out. And that's like the bigger pebble in the pond, right? And Rebecca did this, and she created this $1 million business, this incredible company. She wrote this incredible book that was #2 on Amazon for all birth and pregnancy books. And she has, I can't even imagine how many babies have been born through the people that she has equipped in her program. And what better version of hope is there than that, right? It's all these things. And I think too about ushistoryteachers.com, my history website, right? We figured it out one time that we think that over the last 10 years, over 1 million students have learned U.S. history through the curriculum at ushistoryteachers.com. I don't even know what it would be for elementary librarian, but when we sold that, because that has been in 10 times more schools. So how many kids have learned to read and learn technology literacy and learned about history through these things, because we equipped the teacher. We didn't go teach history to the student. We went and equipped the teacher, and Rebecca equipped the nurses. And I see so many people this certification thing is a new thing. It's a bigger kind of thing where you certify people because you have so much confidence in what you're doing that you can actually say, I am the person who can tell you how to do this.
Betsy.
It's better with Betsy, man. Nobody else gonna be able to equip you like this, right? So you launched, and you got people to join this certification immediately, right?
I had people signed up, paid. They paid before I launched it. Before I had a website, before I had a description. because they're a testament of what I do. They've lived it.
And I want to stress everybody, the worker deserves her wages. Betsy's put in the time. Betsy's went through the valley. Betsy's done the thing. How much total is your launch at right now? Like, how big is it right now? How much money has it made? We don't have to get into all the details.
$60,000.
$60,000. Like that. And this is just the opening of the door. Like, this is what's this going to look like in the next 10 years? It's not even closed yet. Like, you still got the launch going on. And it's all because it opened up and all because it went out there. And so before we go to the next part, which is not as spectacular, I want to stop and I want to congratulate you. And for taking the courage to create these programs and to go put yourself out there and to write books and to do the content part, because the hardest hump to get over in the beginning is telling your story. Like, because we all are just trapped in this societal mentality of our story doesn't matter. But the story is what drives you out and what inspires people to go out and to make change and to do something different. And then also for taking the time and energy and effort and having the selflessness to take what's in your heart and your head, that knowledge and wisdom and understanding, and putting it into this certification program and then teaching this to other people, because people can get scared to do that. They're like, I'm scared to make competitors. I'm scared to do this. I'm scared to do that. But you're like using your God-given gifts, talents, abilities, and experiences to basically like disciple other people in this path to go out and help other people. Because if you can equip 100, 200, 300 of these certified people in the Better with Betsy methods, then you multiply. You go out and multiply and you help other people. And to have a financial launch like that too, like, we always say, if you can find one, you can find 101, you can find 1,001, because we're not as unique as we think we are. What we're going through, other people are going through. And when you go out and you find that first client, the second client, like, there are probably hundreds, maybe thousands of people out there with the competency to come into your program and then be equipped by you and go out there and do that. And to see multiple people, $60,000, all that coming in, like, I don't want you to focus on anything that's not going right. I want you to look in the mirror and say, Betsy, good job. That was awesome.
Absolutely.
So congratulations on that launch. That was incredible.
And I will say, for anybody who needs to hear this, there's something called the Velcro Teflon theory of the mind. And what it says is that negative things or things that don't go our way stick to the mind like Velcro. And then the positive ones slide like butter on Teflon, right? And I know and understand that. And there's been moments that I'm like, yeah, but $60,000 doesn't even cover what I've invested and the amount of work and effort I've put into this. And then I'm like, are you freaking kidding me, Betsy? Like, people have invested a good amount of money on you because they believe in you. Honestly, I feel extremely fortunate and blessed. And I want to remind people that, like, whenever that, the negative things or thoughts want to like stick like Velcro, you get to sit with like the positive things and reframe it for 15 seconds. That's what the theory says. You sit with it for 15 seconds so that it can stick like Velcro in your mind. So I've sat with it for minutes and hours, and I have, practiced a lot of gratitude. That's because amazing. I think it's a big deal that I am where I'm at with this.
It's a huge deal. When I heard the first day you opened, I get a report every day from Delyn, our head coach, and to tell me what's going on with our students and clients and people that are launching, right? Because we have people launching almost every day. Somebody launches something. I don't really worry about the amount as much. Like, it's incredible. When you hear something like that, I mean, $60,000 is like what the median income of a household is, right? So contextually, that's an incredible launch, right? And then you're not even done yet. Like, it's going to get bigger. But like, it's also like, I look more for just the straight numbers. Like, wow, like, she had multiple human beings, not one, multiple human beings have said, that's what I've been looking for. And I'm willing to invest whatever the amount is in the program. And, I go back to our story. People laugh whenever I tell that 11-cent story on stage because, like I was about to give up on my online business, like completely. I couldn't make any money, couldn't get anybody click an ad, didn't know what to sell. And one night, man, I looked at my analytics, and every other day before that for months, it had been a zero in my ad account, like someone clicking ads or something. I tried affiliate links. I tried everything and nothing worked. And then one day I hit refresh, and instead of a zero in my account was 11 cents, a dime and a penny. And ever since that moment, I was like, wow, I did something that was apparently of some value that someone spent time with and then clicked something because I asked them to. Right. And that moment was what changed everything for us, because we realized that maybe what I have is not as financially valuable as someone else or whatever, however the market compares me to other people, but I have value and someone else sees my value. And now that's what we look for in any of our programs, is we just trying to get that first person to find the value in it, because then we know there's other people and it's just a matter of like refining the process. So when I heard you had more than one person pay what they're paying to be in your program, I was like, Betsy's on it now. The wheels are turning.
I'm on it.
You are. The wheels are turning. I know you are. But okay, so one thing that we teach now, and then we're expanding out a lot of the things we teach, is multiple streams of income. And we talk about how, but we're always based on impact. Like, how big can our impact be and how big can our ripple be when we throw that pebble in the pond? And like, I love the concept of certification. I love the concept of content creation, which you do a great job of. But then there is this layer of, okay, now how do I go to the masses? How do I help as many people as possible? How can I truly scale this? How can I offer things like, here's other coaches that you can hire to help you through the process, but the core courses, the core communities that we build around our courses, on top of the coaching and the certification programs. And you have got this program now, right? You've got this course, you've got this training, you've got this membership component that you want to try to lay on top of this. And that's the part of your multiple streams of income online business that's kind of struggling right now, right? So you tell me about the membership. Tell me about what's in it real quick, and tell me about like what's happened when you've opened this up to people.
So Hurt to Hope is an online program with a live coaching component and a group support group. It's an explosion of amazingness. I've already.
It is amazing. I'm looking at it right now. I'm in here right now. Yeah,
it's incredible. And it aims to, or what it does is it picks you up where you're at in your grief, and it guides you through your healing, right? Like through that pain through that path of healing and joy that pain is. And this program started a few years ago when the pandemic first hit, as an online course, right? So it was they had access to it forever, and then they had 6 live sessions. And they could renew those live sessions, and everybody did all the time, right? Like at least for a year, they were renewing that. In this program, they have the course part, so they have videos like you do in your course. Yep. They have the live coaching, and they have the group support. So there were like people who became best friends. It was incredible, and you learn from others as well.
So,
right?
So you sold this concept before as more of an open, like we start something, we end something, and it's over, basically.
Right.
I got you. And people did buy this. People came and bought this from you.
Yes. But the people who came, Shane, were people who knew me, people who trusted me, right? Like whether it was because they had been exposed to me in some way before, or somebody knew about me. So I had a successful launch with people who were familiar with who I was, who were referred to me for therapy. So when they
more of a personal network situation than an online networking situation.
Yes. So when they came to me for therapy and we proposed this, they were like, no problem. And this program was $1,000. I had no problem selling it. No problem. Now, but then in addition to that, to scale, I started investing on Facebook ads, on marketing, email campaigns, like doing all the things that you teach in the $1 million funnel. Yep. And I had 0% conversion. So then they're like, oh, it's the message. So I've redone my sales page 4 times in the last couple of years. And
I've reviewed it. Since this week. I've looked through this, especially Hurt to Hope. And I actually sat down with Kat, our website expert, and we looked through it together. So I've looked through it. I see that the messaging it's really clear. Like, I mean, it says, I think even your headlining, like we do a skimming strategy. As I'm looking through the skim, like I use the excruciating pain of losing my child to find my life's purpose and become happy. I see the messaging, like it's all here. Like at the sales page, I think the messaging is correct. It looks really, and if anyone wants to look at the sales page, it's at hurttohope.com.
Heard the number 2 hope.
Think of it like grief counseling in the comfort of your home. That's good too. Like I love the language. I don't see any problem with the sales copy, you know? And who did you launch? Okay. So let's I'm going to put a wall between the personal network and push it over to the side for a minute. Like, who did you launch this to? Who have you rolled this out to? Has it been cold Facebook ads? Or is it through content, through an email list?
Like no, actually neither. I've had like multiple marketing teams because they give up on me. I'm the only one who doesn't give up on myself. Or
I ain't giving up on you, sister. Come on now. Shane Sampson don't give up on nobody.
Yes,
she also told me that. She also told me last night. She goes, you see the best in people, even when there is no best in people. And I'm like, I know. That's how I roll. That's why I was put on this earth.
I see that too. And I am, here's the thing, Shane. One of my main messages is that pain, or I should say suffering and service, cannot coexist. So whenever you're in service, you cannot be suffering, at least in the present moment, right? So I the day after losing my daughter, someone gave me hope and it defined my life forever. It was a priest who came to my house and sat with us, my husband and I, and my husband was like, Father, like, is it possible? You've seen this before. Is it possible to be happy again? Can we ever be happy again? And he said, some people are and some people are not. So my husband asked, what's the difference? And he said, the people who are never happy again believe that the more they suffer, the more they loved. So they cannot give themselves permission to stop suffering and grieving and feeling, because then that means they forgot about their person. They didn't love enough. But the people who are happy again are those who choose a different way to honor their loved one. They do it through service, love, gratitude. And I remember at that moment in my grief thinking, I am going to be that person, the person who honors through love, service, and gratitude. Did that happen overnight? Absolutely not. I got out of that conversation still wanting to die. But I made that decision that day. And because I had a North Star, I knew where I was going. I was going to be the parent. I wasn't going to be the grieving mom who lost a toddler, like moping around life like I was. I was going to be the chosen mother of an angel, and one who's VIP in heaven, and who has this special gift because I'm the chosen one. And when I switched that over time, when I knew where I was going, I was able to make small adjustments. So one day I didn't feel like getting out of bed. And I thought, but I'm not the grieving mom who lost a daughter. I'm the chosen mother.
This is the process that you turned into.
It's that hope. Yeah. It's that hope and that North Star of knowing where I'm headed that like allowed me to get to where I'm at slowly but surely.
You know what I think is interesting here? And this happens with me sometimes. Because we both have like very big personalities. And one thing that you and I have talked about off air is it feels like there's a disconnect for some reason in the people that we're rolling this out to, like the people. And your story is so overwhelming because the loss of the child is the most overwhelming story there could be. There's no story that we could tell in the world that's probably more overwhelming than that. It's almost the epitome of overwhelming grief, right? And your story is the foundation of this. But as I'm looking at this, and now I understand just from our conversation, just a messaging standpoint, like in the way you explained earlier in this podcast that, you know, like you say, all grief is welcome here on your sales page. Like I get that, but I wonder if there needs to be a more definitive messaging of, you know, like sometimes I shorten my story as much as possible to get out of the way of my marketing. And like your story is perfect on here. It's not long. It's perfect. There's a video. But like even in the testimonials section, one thing I'm seeing is just text. And like I don't see a headline and image that says, for example, this one testimonial, this is what stood out to me as I'm looking through this. So this lady, Jenny, said, I was going through a divorce, you know, and it was very painful, basically. But like, if I'm skimming through this, I just see Jenny and Yvette. If I was skimming this, I would assume those people also lost a child, That's what I would assume, because that's what I'm here for. Betsy's story is amazing. Betsy's amazing. She lost a child. In my mind, as the customer, as the skimmer, because they don't always read every word, I'm just thinking this is only for people that lost a child. So watch what happens. Let's say you've got 1,000 people on an email list, and you send a thing out that says, I'm Betsy. I lost my child. I overcame the grief through XYZ. And now I can help you overcome any grief because I experienced this grief and I've helped other people get through other grief. But like all I heard was the overwhelming narrative, right? And I'm wondering if that might be the disconnect here. Is the assumption is that this is only grief of a child being lost, but it could be the pain of any loss, right? What I see when I go on this page, like I would automatically assume if I was just scrolling down to the, like if I read your story and think how we all use websites. You read the first part, you read a little less of the second part, you might play a video, but then you're just kind of rolling and looking at videos and it's pretty and there's hearts and understanding pain and think of it, grief counseling. But like, I'm not seeing enough of other pains here. And I wonder if like we could do some campaigns that are like specific to not your story. All roads lead to the sales page. Right. And that's where the offer is presented. And ads have a part of this too. Like if an ad said, overcome the pain of divorce, and it was specific to that thing. And then it clicked to a sales page where there were multiple examples of someone overcoming the pain of divorce or overcoming the pain of like maybe like an estranged child, like my child's on drugs, they've left, they're gone. Right. Or the overcoming the loss of a job. A career, right? Your career ended because you did something stupid. Even maybe specific sales pages that only talk to those people. Like we've done that in the past. Like sometimes I'll do an ad that it's not about starting an online business. It'll be an ad like your sales page and webinars are not converting. So now I'm talking to the hyperactive, already making money entrepreneur. They'll land on a sales page that is completely different than the Flip Lifestyle Blueprint. So even lasering in on these different pain points, I'm not seeing it on this sales page enough. It's there, but I feel like it's almost hidden. Like I wish there was a big headline here that said, instead of what this means to others, I wish there was multiple headlines that said, Jenny was being destroyed by the pain from her divorce, and then she found hope.
One of them is a dad who has a child with special needs, and it was
there you go. Team. Exactly.
Another one says loss in divorce, and then the other one says the loss of a father to them.
And so let's listen to what we just did with our team, and I'm gonna start geeking out a little bit, right? Like the one thing that we have to understand about humanity is humanity functions in certain categorical ways. One of the things that we categorically function as is we look for people who are us, have been through us, who we see ourselves in, to find hope, to find answers, right? So I did this, I was a political science major, and I did like, it wasn't a thesis, it was like right below that. It was like my end of year thing for a class or whatever, but it wasn't in my master's program, it was for something else. So it was like, but I did this thing on self-segregation, and I did this big anecdotal research all around the University of Kentucky's campus, looking at how women congregate together, men congregate together, fraternities look the same, people sit with the same kind of demographic they are and nobody's telling them to do this. We just kind of function this way, right? And that can be an extremely negative thing. People can abuse that tendency, but you can also look at that tendency as like reality, how reality is, and say, hey, when people come to my sales page, they're going to see me, but I'm a big dude from Kentucky. Are they also going to see Betsy if they're like Betsy? Are they going to see her story? Are they going to see Jocelyn? Are they going to see Evan? Are they going to see other people? And what I like, not having even photos on the testimonials, I think is a horrific mistake for people in marketing, because if people don't see themselves, they're not going to go farther. They're not going to read the blurb. They're not going to click play. They're not going to do those things. But yours is even more than demographic. It's not just saying men or women or race or anything like that. It's the story of the pain, right? Like I would have 7 to 8 different pain journeys in all of your marketing and try to pull people in that way. So that, because when I get to the bottom, I'm like, wow, I'm in grief. I want to overcome my grief. This doesn't look like my grief. So I'm out. And that might be the problem here.
I have a challenge for you, because I feel that with all the surveys I've done and all the asking people, right, like what is it that's not working? I have learned some things about my program that don't help the success of it. And one of them is that this is something very different to what people are used to. People are used to going to therapy if you're grieving. They're used to going to a support group if you're grieving. This, they're going, they go to church if they're grieving, right? This combines all three. And it's virtual, so it's different to what they're used to for the most part. It's, like people are when you're grieving, your energy is low. You don't feel like getting out of bed. That was part of the purpose. I'm thinking like, there you go. You don't even have to go to therapy. You could do it at 3 a.m. when you can't sleep because you're crying and you're hurting so much, right? Sure. Like, so that was part of my purpose. But that taking the initiative to do something, that's why I do lives, because lives are like, you have to be here at this time.
You're talking about the program. Yes. Nobody knows how awesome what you're telling me is because they won't go past the sales page and give you money. I have seen programs similar to this. The bridge is always the marketing. And like I have seen programs until people know until they know their pain, and until you aggravate and agitate that pain to a point where they move and click the button and give you money, they will never know what's inside your thing. We had a pharmacist one time come into the community, and I will honestly say this. She had the best program I've ever seen. It was the best training program. It was the best courses. I had never seen anything at such a high level that was built. I had never seen anything that could produce results for her specific niche, right? But her marketing was not right. So no one ever saw it. It was like she had built this amazing castle on a hill, but then she built a moat of bad marketing around it and would never let down the drawbridge, right? Like, your stuff is amazing. I can see that. And I know what it does, and I know why you're different. But the problem here is the reason people are not buying, and I can say this with great confidence of coaching thousands of people and doing thousands of sales page audits. The reason people are not buying is because they don't understand that you can solve their particular pain. It's too general. It's grief. And your story is so overwhelming that the other pain points get lost in the shuffle. Like when you told me earlier that this could get people to overcome pain, what did I immediately do? I really realized, oh my God, it's not just for people who have lost their child, because that's the overwhelming thing I thought. It's like, it's for Anna Joe who lost her gym. It's for Jocelyn who lost her business. It's for my friend who just got divorced and he can't even get up and go to work. I mean, I had this epiphany of what you actually do in this incredible thing that's totally different and is better than anything out there on the marketplace. I get that. But if you don't change the marketing of it, is where the experimenting should happen. And until you, there's the greatest template I've ever seen for marketing is called problem, agitate, solve. You have to identify the problem and make people problem aware. Not Betsy can overcome grief. It's Betsy can help you get through the pain of your divorce. That's a particular problem. It's Betsy can help you overcome the job loss because you screwed up and did something at work. It's Betsy can overcome the dad who did the thing. And like in marketing, you have to focus on the pain. You have to agitate the pain. Like, wow, your grief has you on the floor rocking and you're not taking care of your other kids. Your grief has you on the ground rocking and you're not going to find the next job because you lost your job. These different pain points you're not hitting. And I think, based on my wisdom and experience, that if you started trying these things, we could start looking at different demographics and one of them will hit. Like, for example, let me tell you about our stadium events that we, like Life Surge that you went to. We test about 10 different demographics, pain points in the beginning of a marketing run, right? We don't test the product. We know the product's awesome. We know the product's world class. We know all those things are happening. But we look at 10 different demographics. That's why there's different speakers. There's Priscilla Shire. There's me. There's Willie Robertson. There's Tim Tebow. Like, we're looking at all these demographics for a particular city. In Cincinnati, when we tested all the demographics, the ads that were getting the best ad spend and the most thing were Priscilla Shire. That's the one that was really hitting. Like women in Cincinnati, when we presented her ads, that's when we hit. So guess what? All the marketing dollars went to that. And then we filled the stadium and we had 5,000 people at the event. And like right now, the vibe is singular. The vibe feels almost hyper niched. And I think that's why if you present this to 1,000 people, it's really easy for 999 of them to say no. because they're only seeing one pain or grief in the narrative of the marketing that's coming through. It's an incredible narrative. It's a beautiful story, and it matters. But it's like there's not other things that they're seeing inside of the narrative, right? So until they see themselves, they will not see the offer page, and they will not see inside the incredible, different, unique, amazing program. And this marketing, to me right now, looks like people are only seeing one kind of person. So now you have a choice there. Okay, there is a bridge there. There are a fork in the road. You can go hyper niche. That is very effective if you do it correctly. And you can say, I'm only going to target this at parents who have lost children. That's totally a possibility that could be very successful because that's millions of people. But if you want to go the other way, your marketing must reflect that you can do all these pain points, because I have known you now for 6 months and I didn't even realize that. And I've seen your marketing. I've read your copy. I've listened to your stuff. I've watched your videos. So that's what I see. You don't have to go either path that I offer you, but I see that there's a problem here. I see that's what I identify when I look at this with my wisdom and experience. Does that make sense? It's not a product problem. Your product's the best product, one of the best products we've got probably in the community. It's a problem. You're not agitating the problem, and you're not convincing people that you can solve their problem. And that might be why there's a disconnect right now.
So I'm having some resistance with this, and I want to share it with you.
That's fine.
And my resistance is because before in the funnel, right? Before people get to my sales page, they have gotten my lead magnet, which is a downloadable. They have gotten emails that I wrote with the heart, right? Like connect, like as if I had them in therapy in front of me. How are you doing today? Is this what you're feeling? I know what that feels like, connecting with them. This client of mine went through that too. Like everything that you're telling me to do in the sales page, I know I did that. I paid someone to help me write these emails mindfully and intentionally.
Are you doing it in your ads and on your sales page?
Yes.
Are your ads always you telling them and speaking from the heart, or are they completely about somebody totally different? If I show an ad about one of my webinars, I will show, like, let's take Evan Burse. I'll show Evan Burse. He runs a cartoon membership where he teaches people how to draw. It's his family photo. It's his story. It says nothing about me. So, what I'm trying to do there is I'm trying to target artists who want to leverage their skills to be an online business owner. It's not anything about what I can do. It's not anything about me. It's like total, because you may say you're doing this. I believe you. I'm looking at your social media on another screen. I'm looking at your sales page and your website on another screen. And I am adept at looking for these things, and I do not see what you're telling me.
Oh no, my social media is focused right now on coaching certification all the way. So
I get that. I totally understand that. But like I can go in and check, I can look at like Facebook ads. I can look at other things like that. And like on your homepage, all right. When I go to either homepage right now, like if I go to Better with Betsy, okay, which is your core, because as soon as someone finds you, they're going to try to go to your website. When I look at Better with Betsy, I don't see what you're telling me. When I look at your public presence, I don't see. When I look at your social media, I don't see.
Better with Betsy is already like about to explode with, I have so many programs and things, right? Like I have teen programs, I have prior practice, I have online program, I have a book, I have different online programs, right? So I think I need to redo that in a way that I can put clearly all the new things that I've added, because it is true that my umbrella website can do better in letting people know, hey, I'm doing this, right? Like I have different websites for the Bwb Coaching Academy, for the Hurt to Hope. I definitely can do a better job with that for sure.
I don't want you to value judge it right there. It's not really better. Okay. That's not what I'm saying. You need to decide like the 5 archetypes of who you serve, and your campaigns. Like, for example, like I think divorce is probably a huge one because that's such a painful experience, right? Loss, that's a huge loss. You just lost the relationship that was your core
dreams, life as you knew it, your family,
everything, right? There is the grief thing, like like hyper-targeted grief from losing a child. That's the one you can really speak to the most, probably. You have the counseling background where you don't have to have the story. You can speak to anything.
So my focus for Hurt to Hope is losing a loved one through death or divorce. That there is a niche. There's a niche, and I have examples and worksheets.
That's great. Okay, that's great.
I want to go back real quick to my doubt. Like, is the sales page really that important? If I have engaged with them and they've replied to my emails and they've told me their story, like they like I in the nurture sequences, I have 2 nurture sequences that are a total of 14 days, right? Or a little longer. The first sequence is right after the lead magnet. And the second sequence is me giving them more value. It's a 5 video series that I would pay for. It's incredible. So I'm giving them more value, more content. They now know what I stand for. They know what my message is about. And then I sell.
So here's what happens in a nurture sequence. Okay. 10 times 10 is what I call it. Like 10% of people actually read every word in your nurture sequence. 10% of people will skim it. 10% of people will only look at the pictures. 10% of people will just click the link. So like we're providing everything for everybody kind of in these sequences. The sales page is the only thing that truly matters in the entire sales funnel. Everything else, ads, everything is just like mud on the wall, right? We're casting 10 nets, and they're the 10 biggest nets we can cast to get people to go to the sales page. The sales page is designed in a way to get people to join the membership. And also there's a thing in marketing, the rule of 7, some people call it. It's until someone has read something or seen something or heard something 7 times, they're probably not even going to consider it. So like the sales page to me, I'm even repetitive on it. Like I'll say the same thing 3 times on my sales page because I want to make sure I'm repeating myself there. And I don't know how they got there. So it's assumptive to think that they went through the funnel. It's assumptive to think they saw the ad. There's no way to know how someone got to the sales page. And Russell Brunson told me at a thing we were at one time, like imagine that the sales page was you sitting with the person and they had never met you, and you have one shot at getting enough money to feed your family at the end of the week. You don't leave anything out of that kind of sales page. Like you're throwing everything on the wall, and it must be the problem. Like, for example, you said death and divorce. And those are, if you want to hyper niche down to those 2 things for this, that's amazing. But I can't see that on your social media, on your public presence, or on your sales page. I can't see both of those things. There's one testimonial that says divorce. So one of the questions that we talked about, I think off air, I can't remember at this point. One of the questions that we talked about was, people are telling me they want this, they're telling me this thing, but then when they get there, they're not doing it. Because when they get there, they don't see their problem. They don't see their problem. And if they can't see their problem, and if they can't feel the problem agitated in their heart, they will not buy to understand how amazing your incredible, awesome, different program is. Like there's no way to know that's the moat that we've got to fill in. We got to drain the water, put down the bridge, and we got to say, oh, I just got divorced and I'm feeling tons of pain. And then there's another layer to this too that I probably don't have time to go into. When we make the person problem aware, they're like, this is my problem. Oh, wow, this person might have the solution. They don't even need to know what the solution is half the time. They don't even need to explain to them. They just need to know you have a solution. And then we agitate it. There's salt in the wound. Like, oh gosh, that is why this problem is devastating my life. Then we say, so here's the solution. So then you present the solution to them. There's another thing we have to do there at that point, which is this is the only solution for your problem. That's what the marketer's job is. Like this is the best. There's other solutions, but this one's the best to clear out the salt from your wound, clean it, and then solve the problem that you have. But you don't even have to explain to them I don't tell people what's in the blueprint. I don't explain the blueprint. That they'll figure that out once they get into the solution, right? The doctor, when you go to a doctor and you say, I have a headache, and they look in your eye and they see a tumor, they may tell you have a tumor in your eye. This happened to a friend of mine. They may say that's a tumor, but they're not going to give you the Latin name for it. They're not going to do all this. They're going to tell you, hey, there's a tumor. We have to do some surgery and we're going to remove that. But they don't tell you, I'm going to use these 5 tools. I'm going to go in and cut this nerve. I'm going to do this. Unless you pursue that, they just say, you have a headache. It's caused by this thing, and I'm going to go remove it. That I don't need to know everything, how awesome the surgeon is. And I can research that. I don't need to know how cool the nurses are in the room. Half the time, I don't even know their names. I don't need to know who invented the scalpel to cut my retina. Like I don't need, all those things are great. Those are the things that will solve my problem. But I got to have the problem in front of me. I got to know I'm at the eye doctor, not at the foot doctor. I got to know that this is the thing. Wow, this guy's done 1,000 of these surgeries. That's amazing. That's really cool. And they're all the exact same problem that I particularly had, which is divorce or death or something like that. And then we say, I have a solution. Here's the overview of the solution. Once they sign up, once they put the date on the calendar, that's when we can say, this is different. We're going to go to the Holy Spirit. This is different. We're going to go to the thing. This is different. This is different. But it's not until they've given you money at that point. So does that make sense? Does that make more sense what I'm saying here? Like, I know you're doing all these things. They're just not visible enough. Something is wrong, and the patient is not seeing the problem in this messaging. It's just not there yet.
Too focused on the outcome, right? Like finding joy and hope and whatever, instead of avoid developing mental illness because of this compounded grief. Avoid being a neglectful mom who leaves a kid feeling like he wants to die too, so that you can pay attention to him, right? Like,
here's a simple example of this. When I go up to my kid, and because I think they haven't eaten in a while, right? I don't say to my child, what's your favorite food? No, I say, I bet you're hungry. And then the kid goes, oh, I'm hungry. All right. They now know they're hungry. And then I'm saying, man, when did you eat last? Oh, Dad, I haven't eaten since breakfast. I'm really hungry. Okay. And then we say, what do you want to eat, son? And then he says, I'd love a pizza. Now the person has identified their problem, has felt their problem, and they told me what to want. So I just give them the pizza. It's the same thing about like a divorced person. Like you say, was that divorce planned? Did you expect that to happen? No, I didn't. I didn't expect it, and it's really wrecked my life. Oh, awesome. Not awesome. That's a bad word. It's like, oh, I see. I understand that. I see that. Man, how has that affected you? Oh my gosh. It's like we're fighting over kids, and I've lost this much money, and this, oh man, that's crazy. And is that causing like anything happen in your life? I've been really depressed lately. Wow. Yeah. Would you like to not be depressed anymore? Because I have a program that can help you not be depressed anymore. We're going to get them to the joy. That's the result that we're going to provide. But when I say, hey, I can give you joy from your divorce and you'll be better, feel better again, they're going to be like, I don't believe you, because they're not going to believe you.
They're not at an energy level they can relate. Yeah,
exactly. But some people are like, oh man, I got to make people feel the pain. Oh, I've got to make people agitate through that. Oh man, that makes me feel bad. But you and I have both agreed 100 times on this exact podcast. The obstacle is the way. The pain is the path through to get to the other side, right? And that's really what our job is as a marketers. We could geek out about this forever, Betsy, but I think we've probably thrown enough mud on the wall. I don't think anything is wrong with what you've created. All we're doing now is dialing the targeting and the messaging to where someone will react. And then when they react, we can again show them a price. Now, the price is another point where maybe some experimenting back and forth, $50 either direction of this price point that you've got listed here. That's another dial you can turn, but until the problem thing is adjusted, right? I'm not sure if we can do that. So maybe two campaigns. Maybe get some more people's faces, videos, and headlines that say, I got divorced, but then I got over it. Yeah. If we can change a few things there, let's put this back out in front of the same people and see if we can stir some of the same people we've been showing this to up to take action. If that doesn't work, then we'll try other messaging, like maybe try different demographics, like different men, different women, different people, like show people, right? And different images that we can try. But I think that just dialing in the problem, agitating the problem, solving the problem will give us an opportunity to get more people out there and get them in your thing, because your thing is amazing. It's absolutely amazing. So Betsy, tell everybody real quick, because I know there's people listening. We have a lot of people listening to this podcast. I know there's people out there that are hurting, and there's people out there that are suffering, and there's people that maybe have lost a child, or maybe they are going through a divorce, or maybe they're experiencing some of the things that we talked about today. And I do want to put out there, I am not an affiliate for Betsy. I just love Betsy. I'm not getting anything for promoting her stuff. But I believe in her work. I know her stuff's awesome. I've got her book in this closet right over here that I have read through. And I want to make sure that people know about what you do because your work's important. So tell everybody a little bit, maybe if people want to go help other people about what you're doing with your certification program, and then tell them where they can go to find out more about overcoming grief from death and divorce too.
So my Instagram and social media and everything is Better with Betsy. My website is betterwithbetsy.com. But the Hurt to Hope program, I have a book with the same name. It's hurt2hope.com. The coaching certification, bwbcoaching.com. And if you know someone who's grieving and you want to give them something to support them, go to hurt2hope.com/faith, and you're going to get the five video series that I think is extremely powerful and healing. Oh, and then I have a coupon code for Flip Lifestyle. The coupon code
that's good marketing right there now.
Yes. So the coupon code for the coaching certification is FLIPPED. So if you put FLIPPED, you're going to get $500 off. And it's only for my community at Flip Lifestyle, which is exciting. I would love to have you. And yeah, that's me in a nutshell. I can't wait to make a world of hope with you guys.
Betsy, I am going to do everything in my power to help you. Your mission's amazing. Your mission's worthy. And we love you, friend. Thank you very much. All right, y'all. That wraps up my interview with Betsy Guerra. Man, we get real and we don't sugarcoat anything in the Flip Lifestyle community. Listen, I always tell people, you don't have to do what I say. But listen, you got to listen. And I'm just giving you a path. I'm giving you an opportunity. And, all of this is about trying new things. If something ain't working, you got to try something different. Because if you keep doing the same thing, you're going to keep getting the same results. And some of us, listen, we get so caught up. We put so much time, so much passion, so much energy, so much effort into these things we create. We take our eye off what matters, right? Like, listen, our people create the greatest content. Our people create programs that work. I create amazing content. I will put the Flip Lifestyle Blueprint. I'll put our coaching program. I'll put everything we do up against anybody in the world. And I'll brag on it and I'll tell you how good it is. Right? But at the end of the day, if nobody decides to pay, if nobody decides to join your thing, you can have all your ego and all your everything wrapped up in that awesome product. And you're so good. And why will people not buy my good thing? Guys, I hate to tell you this. It is always the marketing. And the marketers always win. Like you have to eventually put your program aside, put your ego aside. You got to eventually put your pride aside. You got to put all the hard work aside. You got to put all of that. But look what I did. No, nobody cares. Nobody cares. Nobody cares about the website you built. Nobody cares about the program you built. Nobody cares until you convince them to care. And you convince them to care by showing them their problem, by bringing it to light. People need to see their problems. Don't let them hide in the darkness, in the pit, in the valley with their problem. You got to then show them how that problem is affecting their life. They agitate. You got to show them then that you have the solution. And then you have to prove to them why you're worthy of solving that problem. At that point, they'll consider joining your membership. They'll consider joining your coaching program. They'll consider buying their course. Until you get the marketing, the problem, and the solution in front of them, and then to get the price point right, that's when people will buy. So take your eye off everything that you built. Who cares what you already did? What are you going to do next? I would work on your marketing if that was you. All right, guys, that's all the time I have for this week. What a great podcast with Betsy, man. She's absolutely amazing. Check out all of her stuff online. Before I go, I usually share a Bible verse with you, but I'm going to add a little philosophy to this one because I think it's really relevant. My favorite book on the planet is Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. Best book I've ever read. It's the Emperor Marcus Aurelius talking. He's just his journal, basically, and he's just talking about the struggles that he has in life. He talks about all kinds of crazy things. One of the things he talks about is like he can't get out of bed in the morning. I can relate to that. The Emperor of Rome couldn't get out of bed in the morning because his covers were warm. I can relate to that, right? But he has an amazing quote in this book where he says, "The obstacle is the way." And whether you're overcoming grief or you're struggling with your marketing or you can't quite figure out what to sell online, you've got to push through the pain. You got to push through the struggle. The struggle is the journey. The obstacle is the way. And this, I love this quote because it relates to my favorite Bible verse. My favorite Bible verse is Romans 12:12. Rejoice in hope. Be patient in troubles. Persevere with prayer. God, have hope, have patience, Push through the obstacles, push through the fears, push through the pain. You may be stuck right now and you don't know where to go, but I bet you the obstacle is the way. All right, guys, that's all the time we have for this week. Thank you so much for listening to the Flip Lifestyle Podcast. Until next time, get out there, take action, and do whatever it takes to flip your life. We'll see you then.